Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm.
How familiar are you with the hidden forces shaping our world? Learn about the spaces you occupy every day with Spaces Podcast, a journey through the design, construction, and the impact of our evolving environments. Hi, I'm Demetrius Lynch, host of Spaces, and I'm thrilled to take you on a ride through the intersections of environment, politics, culture, and economy. Join me and leading industry professionals as we uncover the stories behind the spaces that shape societies, past, present, and future.
Today, there's a certain amount of cynicism and kind of general malaise. Maybe many practices should come together and think about common goals, solving some of the major issues of the day.
If I'm not mistaken, it might seem like a wallpaper that is imitating books in some places?
Yeah, I have to say now we are in peace with this. But
Subscribe now by following the link in the show notes, and let's unravel the secrets of our built world together. Spaces Podcast. Go beyond the everyday because spaces shape society.
My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to Entre Architect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. My guest today is Marcos Santa Anna, founder of Alloy, based in Los Angeles, California. Born into a family of artists and craftsmen in Woodstock, New York, Marcos brings a rich multicultural design sensibility to every project, drawing from time spent studying in Denmark, Spain, and New York. He's a licensed architect and a contractor, certified in passive house design, and deeply committed to creating high-performance, human-centered spaces. And I'm looking forward to this conversation, being based in LA and just going through the experience of the fires that were in LA. Marcos has some stories to tell us and to talk a little bit about what they're doing there and how he specifically is addressing those issues through architecture. Marcos, welcome to Entre Architect Podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. I'm looking forward to this. Let's dive right into your origin story. So go back as far as you want to go back. When did you discover your passion for architecture, and who or what inspired you to get started?
Like most architects, I think architects usually find out they want to get into the field at a very young age. So I was 10 when my parents wanted to remodel their house and expand it. So I grew up in upstate New York near the Woodstock area. And my father and mother, of course, were expanding the family, needed to expand the home. My father was a construction coordinator for IBM. So he was managing large-scale office expansions. And he, of course, and IBM had all internal architects, builders. They would do a lot of their in-house construction. And so my father was really good friends with all the people in the trades and also the design industry. So he enlisted his good friend, an architect, to design his home. So it's kind of a common story amongst architects. And so we actually stayed a couple houses down the street during the remodel. So I was able to see the entire process from start to finish as a young kid. I saw the blueprints, back when they were blue, and I was infatuated and excited about the whole process. And during the construction, I would actually play in and out of the framing. And my uncle was the builder. So it's kind of this whole family connection. So he was a GC, and he self-performed a lot of the framing and carpentry. And so as a young kid, I was actually playing hide and go seek with all of his friends and trade partners. And so that's kind of sparked it right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've similar origin story. My father renovated his house as well and grew up in construction, in a construction zone basically for most of my childhood.
Okay.
Plywood floors, half-finished projects. But also uncles and best friends helping them get the project done was a big part of my origin story as well. So similar.
And you're also from upstate New York as well, right?
I was born and raised in Paramus, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
But spent a lot of time upstate New York, snowmobiling and boating, and knew that region and know that region very well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Small world, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the seed was planted. How did you make that seed turn into reality?
So yeah, going back to the story. So my father was also a carpenter. So he built and designed all the cabinets in the garage in our wood shop. So as a kid, I was experiencing just hanging out with him, learning how to put things together. I always knew, but in high school, there was one class that was the architecture class. And so I took that class and had a good time with that, and then decided to head into the field. So I went to college for architecture. And as I was in school, every time, whether it was a summer vacation or, like a Christmas break, I would work in the trades. Actually, another uncle I have was also a GC. So I worked, at first I was sweeping floors, keeping a job site clean, as we all know, is super important for productivity. So they loved having me around, just cleaning up the site. And then slowly but surely, I added the tool belt, and I started to learn how to do carpentry. So I think that was kind of one of the most important aspects of learning architecture, and also at the same time learning the trades. I think that combination was super critical. I think it's a really good way to kind of stay grounded in design, but also making sure it can be built well. So I studied architecture in Buffalo, New York. And then I also went out to Barcelona, Spain. I took a program out there. It was mostly focused on urban planning and sketching. So we spent hours sketching different buildings. Gaudi, pretty famous in Barcelona. And then I also studied in Aarhus, Denmark. So Aarhus is the second largest city in Denmark, outside of Copenhagen. And that was actually a focus on landscape design. So I was able to learn, of course, the Danes and the Danish culture is really focused on high-end design, lighting design, furniture. So that was really, really incredible to learn from the Danes how they thought about design. But I also integrated with landscape and how to blend architectural elements with the earth and design a few projects out there. But just being in Europe to experience, the history of architecture, traveled throughout Europe. I went to Italy and out near Poland, and just all the different cultures and how they understand, how to put buildings together, what their different priorities are. It was pretty interesting and kind of impactful on my career. So I've just one of the kind of there's actually two key points in my European kind of travels and studies that kind of stood out. One was in nature and one was in architecture. So when I was in Rome, experiencing the Pantheon was pretty incredible. I don't know if you've been there, but
I have.
Yeah, it's just such an epic building. So simple, but so profound. But just having the light filter through the oculus. So I think that, as all architects, we're trying to transform people's experiences and to elevate them into different kind of realms of reality. And I think that the Pantheon really, really does that well with very simple materials and form. So bringing in light into the space in a very creative way was really impactful. And then when I was traveling, I went to Chamonix, which is, at the base of kind of Mont Blanc, and just experiencing the mountains and like the rock forms. So, understanding and learning how humans interpret space with a built environment, but then also understanding or just taking a look at and experiencing nature's form was always really interesting. Like the blend of nature plus architecture has always kind of impacted me. So those are some of the backstory.
Yeah. So you talk about mountains. Today you're a mountaineer, right? You climb? Yeah.
I've done a lot of rock climbing, and then I've kind of shifted more to kind of mountaineering, which is like essentially hiking tall mountains.
Yeah. So was that seed planted at that moment, or did the mountains come before or after that?
Well, I grew up in upstate New York, so there are small mountains up there, but
I've been climbing rocks your whole life.
Yeah, exactly. I was pretty much kind of born in the woods almost. Yeah. But I got into rock climbing in college. I've always just loved being in nature.
Yeah.
It's sort of a kind of a balance. We always need some sort of outlet, right? To offset our technical, and potentially stressful architectural world with balance in nature.
Yeah. So how did you get from school to where you are today? What did you do after you graduated?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I spent almost like a year in Europe, came back, graduated, and ended up working in the tri-state area, the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. So I worked with kind of a design build firm. They were really focusing on architecture and construction management, so not full general contracting, and did a lot of work in New York City. So we did a lot of historic brownstone renovations, restorations, working with the Landmark Commission. We worked on a couple buildings in Chelsea, probably closer to your original hometown in New Jersey. It's like Englewood, New Jersey, homes there.
I was born in Englewood.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we that was kind of the new homes were kind of built in that area. So,
yeah.
And then also upstate, we did a couple of homes upstate as well.
Where was the firm based? You said tri-state, but...
Yeah, the firm was actually based in Kingston, New York.
Okay.
Which is about 2 hours north of New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting to be connected to the construction, but we weren't hiring the trades directly. This particular firm, he liked to control kind of the process, making sure the project was built well, but also it reduced a little bit of the liability because you would essentially kind of take the check from the client and then hand it to the trades. The money wouldn't flow directly through the business. So interesting.
That's a great model for someone, an architect who doesn't want to go all in on becoming a licensed contractor, is to do construction management. We did that for several years.
Oh, yeah.
And was very successful doing that. Just you get a lot of control over the project, make a lot more money.
Oh, yeah.
And you have, a better relationship with your contractors.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Because most homeowners, they kind of don't want to think about or have to deal with that next step, which is the general contractor. So, we build such good relationships with our clients throughout the design process.
So where did you go after that?
Yeah, after that, so I worked in New York for about 3 years, and then I moved straight out to Los Angeles, which is where I am now.
How did you get to LA? Just a choice?
So I had a few friends from college who some went to SciArc or UCLA, and I was actually looking at, should I stay in New York City or should I come out west? And I looked at both options, but I thought LA had a good opportunity with respect to, New York is more vertical, like Manhattan is a vertical city, and LA is typically known as a horizontal city. So I kind of wanted to start a practice that we could design and build our projects from start to finish and understand the in and outs of everything, every detail, and have kind of full control to deliver the best building, whether house or commercial building. So that was one of the issues. And of course, the weather, you can't beat the weather in LA.
Yeah, that was my first thought. New York, LA,
yeah, exactly.
Weather.
Yeah, I had a lot of, snow and humidity in New York. So
yeah, especially living upstate, you get serious snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but then of course you have the history of mid-century modernism. So you have a lot of the Bauhaus and the, European influence on LA. Whereas in the East Coast, you do have a lot of the traditional energy that some people still want, that really original classical design. So
yeah, there is modern in pockets of the tri-state area, but not like LA. LA is much more open to modern architecture.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
There's also room to build it. Part of the problem with New York and that area is that it's so old, being a colonial city, that the entire region is built out. There's very little place you have to tear things down to build things new.
Exactly.
And in other parts of the country, you have the land and the area to be able to build new modern projects.
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, 100% correct.
So when you went to LA, did you go to found a firm or did you go out and work for somebody else first?
So in New York, I started a design business in New York, designed a martial art dojo and a couple additions to people's homes. But when it came to LA, I worked for, I first worked for a design build firm. And I was working initially as an architect in the office, designing. But within about 6 months, I believe, 6 to 9 months, I shifted to go right into the field. So I became a construction supervisor, and I kind of learned how to manage more of the construction side, and also, put the tool bags on here and there, some metalwork and carpentry. So I worked with that firm for several years. And then a friend of mine who I knew through my local church, he invited me to work with his firm. And he was an architecture only type firm. And he had both residential and commercial experience. And so he was getting older and wanting to retire. So he said, Marcos, why don't you come in and you can take over my business? I thought that was an interesting idea, because whenever you transplant to a different city, it's a little bit harder to start from scratch. So
you have to build a network from zero.
Right. And so that was about 2000, I think it was like 2007 or 6. And then a couple years later, when right around the crash, 2008, that's when I technically started Alloy. But I had a really good foundation with my business partner, having a history of 30 years of architectural experience. So that's when I started Alloy.
So when you were with the other firm that was talking about taking over the firm, when the recession hit, did that firm close, or what was the trigger from you not going in that direction but starting Alloy?
Yeah, so it was, 2 items. One is my business partner wanted to retire. I think he was in his 70s. And then the other side of it was the downturn in the economy. And so I think we had When I joined his firm, we had 5 people. And then during the recession, it was just 2 of us. So it was him and me. So I was studying for the architecture exams, taking advantage of the free time that we had. I remember we had one project that kept us going, pretty good sized project in Beverly Hills. But so that was kind of the transition point.
So was Alloy a relaunch of that firm, or did you break from that firm and start a new company?
Right. So it was a completely separate entity. So I knew that the type of work that my business partner had been doing wasn't exactly the focus that I was looking to do. I was looking to really focus on how can we have an integrated design build practice more focused on contemporary homes. His was a little bit more balanced as far as between commercial and residential and only architecture. So it was a great foundation, but it was a completely new venture. Yeah. Alloy was its own entity.
Yeah.
But we had kind of had that history.
And very focused from the beginning with residential design, construction, high performance.
No. So actually, I got my contractor's license first before I got my architecture license. It's a little bit easier to get the contractor license. And so I was actually helping with construction management, as we talked about earlier, for this project in Beverly Hills. Our firm we were the architects, and then I started to assist as construction manager. In the beginning, to be frank and honest, it was the recession. So it was sort of survival mode.
Right, exactly.
And
that's a very common way that many architects started their firms in the mid 2000s, was that they were forced to.
Yeah, exactly. So it was actually for the first, I would say, I think it was about 3 years or so, it was architecture only. And so we did a couple local homes, but also we had a separate kind of focus on nationwide retail or nationwide commercial work. We've worked in about 40 states so far. So it was a balance between those two. And then as I started to learn a little bit more about business and a little bit more about running a practice and kind of got a little bit more stable, then I was starting to slowly kind of steer the ship into more of a design build practice. So we started integrating construction. I think it was about 3 years later, we started taking on smaller projects for construction. And then the Zen Modern Home, if you've seen it on our website, that one was a full architecture and construction project from start to finish. We were the GC as well.
And so what are you doing today at Alloy?
Today, we still work on nationwide projects, but our focus really is local architecture-led design build for contemporary homes. And so our offices right now, we're pretty close to the airport, LAX, but we recently just purchased a commercial warehouse building. So that's kind of exciting to do that transition and build that out.
Are you going to move your studio there?
Yeah, we're going to move our studio. Yeah, we've been looking for the past 15 years at space. So all over from Inglewood to Santa Monica, all different types of locations. But
that's going to be fun. That's exciting to hear that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're pretty excited. It's it's sort of the architect's dream, the warehouse office kind of vibe. So yeah, we're trying to take a look at the office in more of a kind of health holistic approach, because I mentioned, so I'm also certified as a Passive Haus high performance building designer, which we've been doing for about 7 years, but also taking a look at how we can integrate high performance into the office, because I feel like there are certain areas that are often neglected as an architect. Air conditioning, typically, most of the time it's the last item on an architect's mind. We start with form and space and those kind of things, but ventilation and health and indoor air quality, that's pretty critical for humanity. So that, and also acoustics. So I think those two items are not really focused on as much as I think they should be. So we're gonna try to implement that into the office.
Yeah, so you can use the office as a model for what could be done.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So being in LA, I know that you were impacted by the wildfires this past year. I know that some of your projects are in that area. How did the wildfires impact you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So the morning of the fire, so we are building and we're building a house in the Palisades.
Right, where the fire started.
Right. Yeah. So our project is probably, 5 minutes from where the fire started. So We evacuated, I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. The fire started, I think it was 7 a.m. or so, or 9 a.m. But we had to shift, obviously. So we took a 3-week pause. We were lucky in the fact that our client was more lucky that their house was right on the edge of the burn zone. So this particular house, there was a house that burned about 800 to 1,000 feet away. So we did have smoke damage. The glass kind of cracked due to heat, and ash kind of covered some of the portions of the house. So once they kind of initiated the checkpoints and the permits, we were able to go back in and tested for asbestos and lead, all the different elements, did a little bit of cleanup, and then we were back in.
How far along was the house when the fire started?
Yeah, so we're still in the mechanical stage. So MEP, electrical, mechanical, plumbing.
So it was all framed. What materials were you using?
It's about a 10,000 square foot house. It's a full remodel. So we essentially gutted the entire interiors and then sections of the exterior. So it's a flat roof with parapets. And so
wood frame?
Wood framed, yep. So it's wood and steel.
Yeah.
Concrete slab on grade. And so we had wrapped most of the exterior, but it wasn't coated. We didn't have a scratch coat. So we still were susceptible for sure.
Yeah.
To the heat. Yeah. So that was the stage. So the great part about the fact that we weren't fully closed is that we could implement additional fire resilient features. And so we're still actually getting permits for exterior irrigation systems, which is essentially a fire suppression system.
For the outside.
Yeah, for the outside. Because in LA, even if you're not in a fire zone, you have to have interior fire sprinklers for new homes. So we're starting to install the infrastructure for that system. Now, the house did have a pool. It wasn't the biggest pool. So we're linking the outdoor fire sprinkler system to the pool. And we're also permitting an underground storage tank for like a tertiary or a third level of water supply.
Let's take a quick break to say thank you to our sponsors for their support of this episode. Gain lessons learned and credits earned with Arcademy, ARCAT's continuing education program. Listen to popular episodes of the Detailed podcast and earn AIA-approved HSW credits. Yes, you heard that right, HSW credits for episodes of Detailed podcast. Listen to an episode, check out the learning objectives, and use what you've learned while listening to take the course. The program is free, it's simple, and can be found at arcat.com under the Resources tab. Or just go to arcat.com/arcademy. That's arcat.com/arcatemy. That's arcat.com/arcademy. Please visit our sponsors today and thank them. Thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. And how does an exterior fire suppression system work?
So it's linked to the municipal water supply. So in the event of a fire, it also has a little bit of a tech side. So there's an app, and what it's doing is it's tracking, I think it's 3 or 4 different. There's like watch duty, which is really common that everyone was using during the fire to try to figure out what's the extent of the fire.
So that's the name of an app, watch duty?
Watch duty. Then there's also, I think the LA Fire Department has a different app. And
so you can see where the fire is at any moment.
Right. So the system we're installing, it's constantly monitoring those websites. And so as soon as it sees, there's a fire maybe 2 miles away, it can start instantly drawing water off the municipal system. But, as we found out, usually you can't rely on the municipal system.
Right. In LA, the municipal system shut down.
Right. Exactly.
In the middle, part of the reason why the fire continued to burn.
Right. Exactly. So once that happens, and of course you have the firefighters that show up and also draw off the municipal system. And so once the system sort of drops, then it automatically switches to the secondary source, which is the pool.
So it just starts sucking water out of the pool.
Yeah. And we actually have 2 independent systems for the house because it's kind of large. And we also have separate fire foam tanks. And so it's not just water, but it starts to implement fire protective material that coats the house as well. I think it's a phosphate material.
And then so that starts to spray and it covers all of the surface, exterior surface. So basically puts a shell around the house in foam.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We have rooftop emitters that send the water and fire foam directly up and coat the roof. Then we also have emitters that are on the edge of the parapets. And those are meant not necessarily to wash the walls, but to wash the surface and the ground around the walls.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the air would also wet the walls. So between those two types, that's kind of how it works. Of course, if the pool drains, then we start pulling water off the underground tank. So it's a lot of different pumps and...
Yeah. And that's all electrical?
Yes, it's all electrical.
And so it's all generator backup, I'm assuming.
Right. So we're installing solar panels on the roof. We're installing electrical batteries in the garage. And, once those drain, then we switch to the new generator that we're installing. And generators, this is all tech stuff, but I'm sure people will be interested. Because with a generator, you want to also have backups and redundancies. So it's natural gas generator. Once the gas gets cut, we're switching to a propane system. So there's different propane, or you could actually have diesel.
So you'll pull from the municipal gas supply, and then if that gets...
Yeah, once the fire department shuts that off, it will go to our local supply.
Then it'll go. So you have a tank with propane in it that it'll pull from the propane.
Correct. Yep.
So lots of belts and suspenders for everything, for the water system, for the fuel, for all of it, just to save as much as you can for as long as you can.
Right. There's another discussion that I've been having with multiple architects in the area about how far is correct and how far is too much, because you have to, every system, there just comes a cost. And so, this house, luckily it still, made it through the fires, but all the other homes that were built, everyone's rethinking, how are we going to rebuild? So most of our projects, like I mentioned, we're the architect and we're the builder, but every once in a while we'll build for other architects. And so we've integrated with different local architects. I work on a house right now from an architect in Boston, but they have different systems. So we've built metal stud, kind of panelized houses. We've built panelized out of wood. And actually, back when I was in New York, we did a house with ICF, the insulated concrete forms. So, for the rebuild for all these homes, we're trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Because with a passive house system, a high performance building, it's all about air tightness. And so if you can build your envelope well and prevent air from leaking in and out, you can create healthier indoor environments. But these systems also are really beneficial for keeping embers out of your house. Most of the houses we build, we don't have any ventilated attics, or we don't have ventilated crawl spaces. They're all fully encapsulated. And so part of the issue with a lot of the homes in the Palisades and in Altadena were the vents. Many of the houses had wood siding, which is just bad in itself. But really, once the embers get into the house, that's when everything starts.
So they're being sucked in through the ventilation system, typically bring fresh air into the house. If that fresh air has embers in it, you're sucking embers into the system.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking more about like the attics. Just keep making sure the attics are ventilated, so they don't overheat, like the traditional homes typically do. So the question now is, which is on everyone's mind, how are we going to rebuild? Right? We have the infrastructure, and that's more like the public works system where we're trying to, make all the electrical wires underground, because a lot of the wires sparked and continue to expanding the fires. But an architectural scope, where we're looking at these homes, do we force or push for concrete structures? Do we push for metal structures, non-combustible framing? Or is it enough to have combustible structure, but just make sure the embers don't enter? So that's really the question.
What's your take on it? Where are you leaning to for your projects?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the more non-combustible world.
Concrete.
Yeah, ideally concrete, if not metal. Each material has its own positives and negatives. Metal's conductive. And so if you have a stud and heat on the outside, it's going to telegraph the heat instantly. Concrete is the opposite. But, if you look at some of the homes that were burned in the Palisades, for example, some of them were built to code, current code, which the whole area is a very high fire severity zone. So you have to build with non-combustible exterior surfaces.
And they still burn.
Right. Exactly. So now if your neighbor's house was built in the 40s or even 1910 or whatnot, it doesn't really help if your house is built to current code because it just creates so much heat right next door.
Yeah, the massive fire right next to it. I mean, just think about a campfire and how hot that gets, right? And that's just a little 3-foot fire sitting next, while you're sitting on a log with your marshmallow. You can't get close enough that it doesn't burn you. I mean, imagine that at 1,000 times the size and 1,000 times the heat coming off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it in LA, what happened to cars and houses, and they just turn to goo. I mean, they just completely melt.
Oh, yeah.
So even a house built to code, potentially, if it's not built out of concrete, is susceptible to that.
Correct. Yeah. And on the alternative side, steel melts, right? Steel bends when it gets and deflects. Concrete also actually can get damaged by fire. So the flip side is, well, why should we spend the extra money to build something that's non-combustible, but still would have to be repaired or replaced even after a fire? So I was just in the Palisades looking at another house last week, and a lot of the homes have basements. I know it's common on the East Coast to have basements, but a lot of homes have basements here as well. And if the house, let's call it superstructure, when you're out of the ground, if that's made out of wood, and if the embers get inside and start the fire, where does all that material go? Into the basement. And so you have, let's say, 1,200 degrees of heat, like you were mentioning. It's like a little campfire that's sitting in basically a camp stove,
right?
Which is your basement.
Then it just makes it hotter and hotter.
Right. So now you have all this fuel sitting in your camp stove, which is your basement. So lots of the walls are pretty much destroyed. All the rebar is exposed, even on the slabs and some of the walls, the foundation walls. And so now it's the question of, are we going to reuse those walls as shoring walls, or are we going to tear it all out and then start fresh? And so everyone's in a different trajectory, but there's a lot of talk about what makes the most sense. So my thought is, if the materials are more fire resilient, then you're just going to have less fuel. So even if there will be another fire, of course, it's just a matter of, you don't want to add to the fuel, add to the heat. And of course, it has to be a community event, I guess.
How is the rebuild going? How is the process? Not being in LA, you only hear what the news shares. Is it being rebuilt efficiently and effectively?
So most of the people we're speaking to are kind of still on the fence as far as trying to learn. Okay, for the first maybe month or two, it was what's happening with the executive orders. And then it shifted to, well, actually, right away, it was, let's rebuild tomorrow, right? And then it was like, okay, let's take a step back, let's relax, let's try to understand what the best process is. So the past couple months, it's been more a focus on insurance. How much insurance is each person going to get? And then they need to make the decision. Are they going to sell the property, or are they going to build it themselves? And so if you drive through the Palisades, maybe every 10 to 20 lots, you'll see some activity. But it's not new construction. It's mostly still cleanup. The phase 2 cleanup is still underway. So
very little construction is happening yet.
Correct. Yeah.
Is that because they're still cleaning up, or is it because there's still legal decisions and code decisions that need to be made before people make the final decision?
I think it's mostly because people are still trying to figure out what they should do. Mm-hmm. And how much funding they're going to allocate to the rebuild from their own.
That's just not, they don't have the answer yet. So they don't know how they're going to pay for it.
Right. As far as the city perspective, you can resubmit your plans right away.
Right. So if you have the money, you can go rebuild today.
Yeah.
So it's about money. It's about the insurance, what you're going to get back from the insurance companies.
Yeah. The LADBS, the building department, they're ready to go. They have an expedited process for plan check. They're also implemented, or they're in the works to implement the self-certification. As an architect, you can self-certify certain aspects of the plan check process. So they're trying to push as much as they can to expedite the process. My concern, of course, is if the codes aren't changing, then you're going to be rebuilding similar homes that were burnt.
Yeah, you'll just have the same problem. So if you have the choice to build, which you will, because that's the market you're in, and the budget was there, what would you suggest and recommend people rebuild?
I would recommend concrete structure. Now, like we were talking about before with respect to the heat, so you have traditional reinforced concrete, which has rebar within the concrete. And you also have what they call micro rebar, which is essentially kind of like filaments of steel, like 2-inch long filaments of steel. And that can almost 100% bypass the requirement for rebar. And it creates, you're probably familiar with the like fiberglass mesh.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a similar idea. It's like an additive to the concrete mix. But if you add these steel filaments, the concrete's going to be even stronger, more resilience. That I think is, in my opinion, that's kind of the gold standard for rebuilding.
Yeah. But expensive, I'm assuming.
Right. Exactly. So that's on a level of how much resilience does each person want to achieve? And then how does that look like with their budget and timing and that kind of thing?
I know that your work, you have a lot of Japanese influence in the work that you do. You are a feng shui expert and apply much of that. How is that being applied to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, a lot of our clients spend a lot of time in Japan. Either they're Asian or they just are into that type of living. So we, as part of our process, we integrate right from the start, feng shui elements. And there's a kind of a series of elements from once you park your car, the experience, the landscape approach, from the car to the house, the entryway, the foyer, and then as you flow through the house. So it's part of our practice, kind of regardless of the client. And there's a spiritual side of feng shui, and then there's more of the practical side. And so even if you don't kind of believe in the spiritual nature, there's a lot of logical elements to feng shui, connection to nature, view paths. It's kind of integrated into our process.
Yeah. We did a little bit of feng shui when we were practicing. And for me, it always came down to much of it is when you walk into a space and it just feels right and it just acts right and the energy in the space is right. And everybody has felt that when they've walked into a space that it's designed well. That's a lot of what you're talking about, right? Being intentional about that, understanding how that works and what causes those things and designing projects that way. Is that right? That's part of what it is.
Yes, yeah. One of the terms I use often is architectural harmony. And so, I think feng shui is one way to achieve architectural harmony. When, like you mentioned, when you walk into a space, it feels right. And why does it feel right? And how did we get there? And so it's sort of like the creative magic that makes a space feel good. So one of the kind of key points is connection to the exterior. So if you can have even a corridor that lands in a window, which has a plant or a tree beyond, and that's all these different aspects. When they come together, you create this kind of magical harmony. So I think that's kind of part of the process, whether you call it feng shui or you call it great design, right? So
exactly, right. A lot of architects do that instinctively, or it's just the way they do it, but there's different ways of getting there. So as you continue with the work that you're doing in LA with the fires and all that, and with the design and construction that you've established, what is the future? What's the future look like for Alloy? You have this new facility being built, 3 to 5 years. What does Alloy look like for you?
We have kind of a growth plan, which we're looking to triple our size in the next couple of years. Our goal was 2030 to triple our size, but
how big are you now?
We kind of fluctuate between 10 to 12 people, kind of split between the architecture and the construction. So we're looking to, triple to get to potentially 30. But it's more about building out the team, making sure we have the right people on the team that have the capability, but also the cultural fit. I think that's super critical. And just to be able to deliver a really high quality product to help transform people's lives. And obviously with Altadena and Palisades, even more so, we need to make sure we're building correctly, that we're designing correctly, and we're not just, duplicating what's been built before.
And there's going to be a lot of work there.
Right, exactly.
So supply is not going to be a problem.
Right. So as architects, we need to instill logic, harmony into everything that's built. So we have a big responsibility.
Are you hiring right now?
Yeah, we are.
If somebody's listening and they want to get in touch with you, they like what they hear, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go right onto our website, alloy.us, and you could send us a message, and then be happy to connect.
All right. It's alloi.us. So at alloy.us, and connect there and say hi to Marcos and say, hey, I'm interested. As we wrap up here, Marcos, what's one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
I would say learn the trade. So, really, because what we do as architects, we create an instruction manual for construction, right? So the more we can be integrated with the team that's building the projects, the more I think we can help deliver a higher quality product for our clients. And so if you can learn the trade, I think that's the first step. Yeah,
I think that's great advice. At any age, I think the more you're out in the field and actually physically doing the work, swinging a hammer, especially for young architects, if you're starting a firm or in school, go out and get construction experience. Get a job with a contractor and swing a hammer and clean up construction sites and engage with contractors. I've done that very similar to you. Before architecture, I did lots of time on construction sites working for contractors. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to understand how they thought. Because much like you, most of my family were tradespeople. My father was an auto mechanic and all his friends were tradespeople in construction. And when I told them I wanted to be an architect, they're like, why do you want to be an architect? We don't like architects, right? That was the vibe that I got from them. And I wanted to know why. And so in addition to learning the trade, you also learn how contractors and builders think, which allows you later in life, in your career, to be able to communicate with them at a much higher level with much more respect because you know where they're coming from. And you ultimately get your work done much better.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, these guys, men and women, just have so much experience. It's just, we as architects need to really learn from the trades and then you really take their knowledge from, decades of experience, and they can really amplify the architecture, in my opinion.
Agree. Marcos Santa Anna is his name. Alloy is the company, and alloy.us is the website where you can go take a look at what he's doing and say hi and maybe even become one of the next employees over at Alloy. Marcos, thank you very much for sharing your story at Entre Architect Podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Good to talk to you.
If you liked this episode of Entre Architect Podcast, please share a link to this episode with a friend. Either just click the share button or highlight the URL and send the link to this episode with a friend, because that's how Entre Architect has grown to serve thousands more architects just like you throughout the 10 plus years of Entre Architect. That's how we've grown, architect to architect. So I would love for you to share this episode and all the episodes with one friend every week. We'd love that. And thank you to our sponsors for this episode. We don't have an episode if there's no sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors. Links to those sponsors, which you should go visit and click, and all the resources that we discussed today for this specific episode, they are all available at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Every episode that we've recorded is there, entrearchitect.com/podcast. Go click the links to the sponsors and say hello. Entre Architect is a member of the Gable Media Podcast Network. You should go visit that at gablemedia.com. That is the next evolution of interactive media and resources for the AEC community. You can now earn continuing education credits for listening to select episodes of this podcast, Entre Architect Podcast. Yes, AIA CEUs for listening to a podcast. It's there, and many other podcasts are there as well, and you can listen to all of them and get credit. Learn more about our program, Gable Members Program, at the gablemedia.com/members website. That's GABL media.com/members. And if you are a small firm architect, join us today at Entre Architect Network. That is the worldwide organization for small firm entrepreneur architects. If you own your own architecture firm, you are an entrepreneur architect. You are an Entre Architect. with weekly live group business coaching. Yep, we have business coaching there. Monthly live business training with AIA CEUs, 2 a month. So 24 AIA credits per year, including 12 of those are HSWs. We have them in the membership. Business resources, all the resources you need to run your business, special session webinars, mastermind groups, and a thriving community of small firm architects just like you. Hundreds of architects are there waiting for you to join. So we provide the support and encouragement you need to succeed as a small firm architect. I know that you haven't been trained as a business person when you launched your firm. That's what we do. Come learn how to run a business at Entre Architect Network. And today you can go join right now for free for 30 days at this link, entrearchitect.com/30 days will give you free 30 days for membership. Go check it out at entrearchitect.com/30 days, and I will see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of Entre Architect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage, and I want you to remember 3 words: love, learn, share. Have a great day. Calling all small firm architects. It's time to tap into your full potential with Entre Architects Context and Clarity, where inspiration meets innovation. Hey, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my 2 favorite co-hosts, Jeff Eccles and Katie Kangas, as they bring together authors, experts, and thought leaders for electric conversations with entrepreneur architects around the globe. It's not just a podcast, it's a community where dreams meet action.
There's a simple equation there. And what that did, just doing that basic calculation, was it allowed me to compare what I had actually saved in my retirement accounts to what I thought a possible projected annual spend might be.
Artists are temperamental, so beautiful design is going to be a priority. When the job is done, we're going to actually need to live in the house, not live with the person who designed it. And so for me, the artistic skill, the architectural skill is most important. And so I would say that would be 60% of it, if not more.
Gain insights to build a successful practice. Subscribe, engage, and let's redefine your future together. Join the Context and Clarity community, where every conversation adds to your blueprint for success. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLamey, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The 3 of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark Arlepage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.